This is a beginning tutorial on the interface of Final Cut Pro. Before we get into it, I want to call your attention to a couple of things. Anytime there's a button or icon you're not sure of, just hover the mouse over it. You'll get a little tooltip. It'll tell you what that button does. It's a really useful feature. I recommend you use it to get familiar with the interface. The other thing is, every time you go to a menu item, for instance, if I wanted to quit Final Cut Pro, you'll notice that to the right, the keyboard shortcut is given. In this case, it would read Command Q. This would be Option Command H, Command comma, and so forth. When you find yourself going repeatedly to the same menu item or sub-menu item, you get a little tired of it, that might be a sign that it's time to memorize that keyboard shortcut. Okay, so this is the most basic configuration of Final Cut Pro. It's basically three windows. We have the library over here, which contains all your source material, your footage. We have the viewer right here, where you'll watch your source material and your completed edit. And then we have the timeline down here, where you'll construct your edit. There are a couple more windows you might display from time to time that are very useful. If you go to Window, Show Inspector, okay, the shortcut for that is Command 4. You'll get a fourth window up here. And once we have our footage loaded, you'll see that there's lots of useful functions in the inspector. And then there's also the effects browser. If you click these buttons down here, you can go to the effects, you can go to the transitions, you can go to the titles, and you can go to the effects generator. These are a few of the more useful buttons you're going to be using. When you're not using these, though, I would recommend that you close them to put more space into your timeline, and if you hide the inspector, you can put more space into your viewer. So keep in mind you have a lot of options for how you can customize the interface. For instance, let's say you don't really feel the need to be looking at your file structure, your file locations all the time. You could come down here and you could hide that window. This is your library of source footage. You could view it in film strip view, or you could view it in list view. You might find that once you get a lot of clips loaded in, it might be more helpful to view it in list view. You can scroll through things very quickly. If you're in film strip view, you have some additional options. You can determine how much of the clip you actually show in these little thumbnails, and you can even select the height of the clip, okay, and whether or not to show the audio waveforms as part of the clip. You get the same options down here in the timeline. You can select the height of the clip, what kind of display you want for the clip, whether it includes waveforms, etc., etc. And there's some other stuff you can explore down here. There's also a zoom button for zooming in and out of your timeline. And up here in your viewer, you can actually toggle it to show full screen, okay, and then hit the escape button to get out of it on the keyboard. Okay, so those are some of the basic interface components you're going to be using.